In this video, we're going to show you how to install the wheel hub on your Hyundai Elantra located behind your front wheels. Using a 21mm socket, loosen and remove your lug nuts. Remove your wheel and set it aside. Now with the wheel removed, you now want to go ahead and remove our axle nut. This here has two little dimples on each side. They're dimpled to retain the nut to lock it into place. I'm going to use a punch, and you want to go ahead and open these up. Now with these little tabs opened up on both sides, you're going to use the 34mm socket and loosen that axle nut. After you remove the axle nut, you want to make sure that the axle is free inside the wheel hub. You want to push on this, and you can reach around the backside, grab that axle and push it back and forth. Now if it's stuck, you can go ahead and use a punch in the middle here and go ahead and hit it with a hammer. Never smash the end of the axle here because you can mushroom over the end and screw up the threads. So make sure you use a punch, make sure that's free. At this point here, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this out, and we're going to go ahead and remove our caliper and bracket assembly. Now we're going to remove our caliper and bracket as one. Now our two bolts is one here, one here. These are both 17mm. Set that aside. Now when you're removing this bolt, hold on to that caliper and bracket. You don't want this to fall off, and then it's going to pull on the flex hose. That could damage that hose. Now we do have a support tool. We need to go ahead and pull off this bracket, caliper and bracket assembly. And we need to hang it. We're going to hang it off of the strut to hold it up out of the way. I'm going to hook this on the caliper bracket and then bring that up and hang it off of the strut assembly, up and out of the way. Now I want to go ahead and remove our brake rotor. Now on our particular vehicle, we have two screws here that hold the rotor to the hub itself. If you do not have these here, it's not critical to the operation of the vehicle. You can simply go ahead and remove your rotor. Now if you do have these screws, you need to go ahead and remove these using your Phillips head screwdriver. These are generally used from the manufacturer to hold the rotor to the hub during assembly. In our case, we're going to reuse these screws. Grab that brake rotor, slide it off, and set it aside. Now, the next step is, I want to go ahead and remove the three bolts holding the wheel hub in place. There's one here, there's one about 12 o'clock up top here, and then there's another one over here. So basically a pyramid or triangle. Using our 14mm socket, we are using a short extension to get past the axle boot. I'm going to go over to the other side of the vehicle and I'm going to grab that wheel assembly and rotate that to get that hub more straight. Now with the bolts removed, sometimes you can go ahead and use your hammer and just work the hub. You try and work it like that. And sometimes that hub will pop right out of the knuckle. Now you want to be careful when doing this job. If you want to, go ahead and throw your axle nut on just a couple threads, because once this hub pops up, you don't want it to shoot out, land on your foot or anything like that. And as you're hitting this here, you're going to look to make sure that that wheel hub is pulling out of the knuckle. You should see a little bit of a gap starting at this point here. And it's coming out. Now here's a little tip for you. For any reason, if this wheel hub is frozen in place and you're not able to get it separated from the knuckle, go ahead and grab an extension. This is about a 6-inch extension. Go ahead and put your 14 mil socket on there. Install your bolts so that you can at least see the threads coming through the hub, maybe halfway through the hub flange itself. Put this around the back. And then you're going to go ahead and tap the backside of your extension. And what is going to happen is those bolts are going to start to push that hub out of the knuckle itself. And at least it'll break it free for you. And then you can, at that point, go ahead and continue to do this here. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses when doing a job like this. If you want to, if you don't have a hub puller, you can always rent one of those as well. But in most cases, you can do this with a hammer in your driveway. There it is. Slide that out. And you can see on the inside here, we do have a good amount of rust on the inside of the knuckle area. So you want to go ahead and be sure that you clean that. Now that we have the inside of our hub area cleaned here, the next thing you want to pay attention to is the backing plate. Now, when we were using our hammer, well, we accidentally hit the backing plate, and instead of having it nice and curved round, well, we have a couple wrinkles in it. Simply go ahead and you can use a ball peen side of your hammer and go ahead and reform that. Doesn't take much, it's just thin sheet metal. Go ahead and reform that. It's kind of par for the course. If you're swinging a hammer in there, it's limited amount of space. And there we go. Now on the inside right here, we are going to go ahead and put a thin coat of some anti-seize compound. Here's another note. You have an ABS speed sensor up on the top here. Be careful of that. Don't get any anti-seize compound on that. I'm going to put a little bit on my finger here, and I'm just going to smear it around on the inside here to help with this here. But make sure you do not get it on that sensor. The other thing you want to do is go ahead and put some anti-seize compound on the splines of your CV axle. You don't have to glop it up, just a thin coat will be plenty fine. Once you have that all set, go ahead and grab your wheel hub. I'm going to go ahead and insert this here. On the back of this particular wheel hub, there's a black ring. This is your ABS pickup. It is magnetized. You do not want to have anything else touch this here, such as a wrench or anything that could stick to it that could ruin that ABS sensor pickup. Line this up. Good, position that. And slide this into place. At this point, we can go ahead and start to get our bolts in. I'm going to go ahead and put a little dab of anti-seize on the threads. And I'm just going to reach around the back. And it doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm going to actually start with the forward lower one. That's the easiest one to get your hand onto and start to thread that in. Once you get one bolt in, the other two are automatically going to line up. So it's going to be nice and easy to go ahead and get that one in. Just start to hand thread it in. Upper one is going to be a little bit more complicated, so this is what I'm going to do. Extension, socket. I'm going to go ahead and feed that in. Just going to rotate that extension. Get that started, a few threads. The trick is just to get all three bolts started with a few threads, and then we can come back and snug them down evenly to go ahead and suck that wheel hub in to that knuckle. Okay, we have our upper one in. We have them all started. I'm going to go ahead and start to snug these down. I'm going to do a little bit on each of them. You can see that wheel hub getting sucked in there. And it's nice to go ahead and do these evenly. Here we go. Our wheel hub is seated. Now we're going to go ahead and torque those bolts down. We're going to torque down our bolts to 43 foot-pounds. Now I like to apply a thin coat of anti-seize compound to the face of a wheel hub. Once you have that done, if you decide to do that, go ahead and grab your brake rotor and get that installed. Now if you have these set screws holding that, make sure you line that up, get that into place, and get your screws started. And make sure those are good and snug. Now we do want to make sure that your brake rotor is clean before reassembly. Use some spray solvent. Go ahead and clean this up. Don't forget to get both sides. Now that you're all cleaned up, go ahead and grab that brake caliper and bracket. Make sure that your brake pads are fully seated in here. And go ahead and line that up. They should slide right back on. Go ahead and take your upper bracket bolt, and we're just going to line that up and get the upper one lined up and started. The reason why we choose to do the upper one is that once you get it started, you can let go of the weight on the bracket itself, and it'll support itself. All right, we have the upper bolt started. I'm going to go ahead and install the lower bolt, and then we'll torque those down. Now once you get those in, I want to go ahead and torque these down to 72 foot-pounds. Now you have these torqued. You do want to make sure that you hop into the vehicle and pump up the brake pedal. Make sure that this piston is completely compressed up against this brake rotor. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a quick initial soft brake pedal, and that could be a safety issue. So just go ahead and pump up those brakes. Go ahead and crank our wheel back out. Let's install our axle nut. Go ahead and install the axle nut. Snug that down. Now I want to get and torque this down to 217 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw on a couple lug nuts here. I'm going to rotate this. Now I'm going to take a large pry bar. I'm going to set this up just like so. Rotate that wheel, and that is going to act as leverage here. Let's go ahead and torque down our axle nut to 217 foot-pounds. Here it is. Move the pry bar and your lug nuts. The next thing we want to do is you want to focus on these notches in the axle itself. Now we're going to go ahead and take a chisel or a punch, and we want to go ahead and dimple the crown right here on both sides. So go ahead and keep that nut from spinning off. At this point here, we can go ahead and install our wheel. Go ahead and grab your wheel. Go ahead and line that up. I want to go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started by hand first, and then once we get them all started, we're going to come back and snug them all down. Go ahead and torque down your lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds. You preferably want to do this in a crisscross pattern. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.